You started this with $500 in debt to what it is now, multi-7-figure business.
I recorded the video and said, today's the day that I quit my job. My goal was just to match the salary that I was making at that doctor's office job. I think the reason that Coffee and Contracts worked is because I just built it without really thinking about it. But I think the messy action, that's what worked for me. If I didn't take action, then I would probably have burnt out and just fizzled away. I never had a corporate experience or I was able to see what leadership looked like and team structures, trying to navigate managing a team and not really knowing. I would talk to mentors and stuff. They'd ask me questions like, what's your churn? I'd be like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? I go through stages of burnout and extreme, I don't know how to explain it. If you just stepped away from everything for a week, it's not gonna burn and crash.
What have you kind of learned along the way of scaling from a few hundred members to a few thousand membership?
The hardest thing to stay on top of is
looking back. You started this 2018-ish.
Yeah.
And you were kind of struggling as an agent. You started this with $500 in debt to what it is now, multi-7-figure business. What would I need to know about you earlier in life to understand, this is the context of how Haley was going to build what it is today? That's
a good question. When I started Coffee and Contracts, I had been an agent for 2 years. And I was definitely a struggling agent. I didn't want to do the traditional methods that my brokerage was telling me to do, to cold call and door knock. I was like, why don't we just post on Instagram? I don't know if this is what it is. I think the reason that Coffee and Contracts worked is because I just built it without really thinking about it and just put it out there and it worked. But that's kind of been a theme in my life, is I just kind of would go for things without thinking a lot about it, which sometimes didn't work for me in some ways, but this one worked. But yeah,
there's kind of a secret recording that you had when you started Coffee and Contracts.
Oh, yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So at the time, I'll just kind of give you a little backstory. At the time, I was a new agent in St. Pete. I had joined a brokerage, and the monthly fee to be a part of that brokerage was $300 a month. And I did not sell a single house with that brokerage, but I was trying. So at the time, I was also bartending, and I was also about to just throw in the towel. When I had gotten my real estate license, kind of skipped over this part. When I got my real estate license, I was in Orlando at school, and I was at UCF, and I was with a small brokerage. And I started as a marketing intern with them, and then I got my license. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but when I saw real estate agents, I was like, oh, I love houses. I love helping people. This looks really fun. I want to do it. And it was such a small brokerage that they gave me my first two. They gave me a listing and they gave me a buyer lead. So I was like, real estate's easy. This is awesome. And then I moved to St. Pete and it was yeah, I'm going to do real estate's going to be my career. And so I joined the brokerage, paying $300 a month. And then I was like, where are my leads? And the brokerage was like, you got to go cold call and door knock and drum up business. And I tried to do that. It was just so unnatural for me. It definitely did not work for me. I know I could have tried a little bit more, kept at it, but it just didn't feel natural to me. So started growing the Instagram account and started generating leads through that. But at the time I was only selling, I was just kind of starting to grow my business. I was still having to pay my bills. So I was, I had said earlier, bartending. I was starting to apply for other real jobs. Mm-hmm. Was not getting any callbacks, but I finally got a call back from a doctor's office to help them with their marketing, which actually just meant going to others' doctor offices and giving cards and muffins and stuff. So the video that I recorded, sorry, this was a really long story.
Oh, no,
The video that I recorded was when I was working that job, I was also building coffee and contracts, and I had put it out there, and like within a couple of months, we grew to like 150 members or so or something. My goal was just to match the salary that I was making at that doctor's office job. And so I recorded the video and said, today is the day that I quit my job. And I remember recording that just to be like, I just want to document this. It was so exciting. But I had no idea, like, and I told myself in that video, like, if you get to 300 members, like, that's going to be awesome. And then I was like, and if you get to 500, like, whew, that's awesome. But I had no idea, like, what it was going to turn into. So yeah, that's what that video was.
And now at 5,000 members, it looks like very different from where it started.
Yeah, definitely.
So what have you kind of learned along the way of like scaling from a few hundred members to a few thousand membership?
Yeah. So I feel like the hardest thing to stay on top of is the quality of the content. That's been like, I think one of the biggest reasons that members trust us and come back to us is the quality of our content is just really good. Like we put a lot of work into the design and like the strategy and the captions. And when you're doing 30 plus pieces of content every single month for 5 years, it can get a little exhausting. So having to like build a team around that, but also keep the team like super streamlined and on top of each individual post being like as high quality to perform well as possible and also be customizable by 5,000 agents in completely different areas. It can be, a lot. But I feel like we have gotten to a point where we feel really comfortable and like really kind of systematized in the content that we're creating. But that's probably been one of the most difficult things. When it's a membership and we're not working like one-on-one with individual clients, it's easier to scale because people join and they can access the content and everything that we put out for them, like the trainings, everyone can join on the training. So it's not really a matter of like the one-on-one, talking to people one-on-one. It's more like just continuing to improve the platform for everyone.
Yeah. And I want to talk about like the team and everything behind that. Mm-hmm. But when you look at kind of like the ideation, coming up with ideas first, for someone who might not necessarily believe that, like, why should I even do it? Mm-hmm. Like, what have you seen across like the 5,000 members versus, because there are like probably other canned content, mm-hmm. but I'm sure there's a little more intention behind the content you decide to create every single month now.
Yeah, so it's definitely changed over 5 years. Whenever we started Coffee and Contracts, it partially started because I just loved creating content in Canva so much. And so like it kind of started with like those really canned graphics of like a cute quote or like just listed. And that was like working in 2019. Now it's changed so much where our members really have to go get videos of listings and like local downtown areas or different local clips, and they have to put them into reels and the templates that we give them. So that's kind of been like one of the biggest things is like educating them on how to record good videos for the templates. Like we just did a post recently about how to stop recording, like scanning around the room really fast, but instead like go slow and be steady. So it's a lot of like having to educate them on creating their own content as well, because a lot of times people will sign up and be like, oh, where do I plug in my Instagram so that it automatically posts to my Instagram? Like I'm ready to be hands off. And we're like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Like we want them to get real results and to see their pages grow and to grow followers. So we tell them they have to put in a little bit of work too.
It makes sense because it's like a gym membership.
Yeah.
It's like
you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Like sign up for the gym. All right.
It's like everyone wants like the easy button when it comes to like social media or content. There's like, just give me the stuff to post.
Yeah. I
don't want any work. But it seems like nowadays with Reels and Instagram, especially like, so you have to go out and actually get kind of like the B-roll mm-hmm. for the content.
Yeah. And people, I think I had a conversation with a member the other day, and she sent me a video that she, like a reel that she created for my template, and she said, "Is this good?" And it was just a bunch of photos, like random stock photos, but it was supposed to be a video. And I was like, well, it should really be a video, like it's a reel. And she was like, well, I don't have any videos. And I was like, can you go outside of your house for like 5 minutes and just record some neighborhood clips or like some trees? And she was like, yeah, hang on 1 second. And she like did. And then she, like, it's so much simpler than you think it is. And it's funny too, because a lot of times I'll talk to members and they're like we'll do Instagram audits in our community, and they'll show me a video and they're like, why did this not get more engagement? And it's like this, you can tell they put so much time into this. Like there's like transitions and crazy effects and stuff like that. I'm like, it's actually like very, like it needs to be a lot more simple, a lot more like authentic. Like you can just record it on your phone. So yeah, I think like they do need to get B-roll videos, and it's a lot simpler than a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah, I'm sure. So when it comes to like filming, if people will come to you and they're like, oh, I just want something easy, you have to probably think through like, how do I make this the easiest for them and the simplest?
Yeah.
So how does someone do then? Like, because they're running a business.
Yeah.
So to go out film, like it has to be super simple.
Yeah. So we created like this guide for them, just called a B-roll guide. And we say B-roll, and a lot of times people are like, what is that? Or like, you're not, B-roll is like in like film, like the clips that you get of like the detailed clips that you get to like put into a video when they're doing like, I don't know, you could explain better.
Yeah, there's no people in it.
Yeah, there's no people. It's just like the detailed shots. Like, so when we say that, like for agents, we mean like, we pretty much just mean like when you're going out to dinner, just getting some clips of you walking down the street, of like outside the restaurant, maybe of your plate, just little details of the restaurant, just like those little detail shots where you're not talking and it's just like your surroundings, even like in listings, like getting little details of the listing. And then we recommend agents creating like albums in their phone, which I do this for our marketing as well. And then when you're just out and about, like going to a coffee shop, getting your videos, just add them to an album, and soon you'll have a library full of content that you can pull from to create reels or create content. I forget what the question was though.
Just making it simple for them so that they can show.
Oh yeah. So we created a B-roll guide where it's super visual, because I think you have to show people like what you're trying to get. And we separate them into 3 different categories of B-roll videos. One is listings. So what types of videos to get when you're previewing the listing or you're at an open house or things like that. Different examples of shots to get and how to record it well. Local B-roll. So that's like those shots when you're out to dinner, when you're walking down the street. And a lot of times we'll have agents that are in like rural areas and they're like, well, I don't have a downtown or cute coffee shops. And we're like, well, think about why people want to move to your area. Most likely it's because there's a lot of land, a lot of acreage, a lot of farms. So getting like you driving out the window of like the beautiful lands, like whatever makes your area unique, those are local shots. So creating an album for those, or we have examples for those in the B-roll guide. And then we have personal videos. So that's just like when you're at your house or your office, you can set up the camera and get yourself working or pouring a cup of coffee, and then you can use those in content as well.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of similar on like YouTube, where I'm sure there's probably a lot of people go to you. It's like, what camera do I need? Like, how do I set up like my profile? Like all about filming. But like when it comes to like getting results, it's a little more of like the strategy and the topics.
Yeah.
And you talked about like listings, like the local lifestyle stuff, and then personal. Have you found there's like a good kind of mix to get like the results that they want?
Yeah. So I think it like kind of shifts with like Instagram. So what I'm seeing right now that's working for agents is focusing on listing features. So just going to listings, like asking agents in your area if you can preview their listings, going and recording some videos and then posting a video of the listing, just showcasing it in some quick, like pretty clips. And then those are the best because they're just something tangible that people can reach out about. They're like the best for growing your account because people love to look at beautiful listings, even if they're not in your area. So it helps the algorithm to show it to more people if people are engaging with it. And then it also helps to generate leads because obviously it's like a tangible, it's like your product that you're selling. So people are interested in it. They want to get more information. So listing features, then local content. So taking those B-roll clips that I talked about, and it's like reels are just really popping off right now. So these are what's really working. But just simply creating like a reel where it's just a few clips of your area. And then there's like a text-based hook overlaid on those videos. And this is where you can like, a lot of times what works is like romanticizing your area, like saying like, send this to a friend who needs to move to St. Pete or things like that. Those are like super shareable things that people in your area are going to share with their friends or to their story. So different like hooks like that. Like I'm thinking about what will people share? What are people who live in this area's pain points, and even just like what's going on locally. So for an area like St. Pete or Tampa, it's so easy to say like, here's some weekend events going on. Here's a new restaurant that's opening up. That's the type of content that people in your area find relevant and interesting. That's like the number one type of content that real estate agents should be posting. And then relocation content is huge as well. So the same thing, like those local clips, and then just a text-based hook speaking to the pain points of why people are moving to your area. So especially if you're like in a big relocation area. So like for Tampa, like thinking about why do people move to Tampa? Are they moving for the lifestyle? Are they moving for work? And then speaking to that in your hook. So saying something like POV, you moved to Tampa, or I don't know why people move to Tampa. I wouldn't move to Tampa. So let's say like a big, like Franklin, Tennessee is kind of blowing up for relocation right now. Like different like rural areas are kind of blowing up. So saying like you moved, you wanted like the Nashville lifestyle. So you moved 30 minutes outside in Franklin, Tennessee, like different content like that. It is performing really well. So those are the three types that I would focus on as an agent right now is listing content, local content, and relocation content.
So basically something that kind of shows like who they are, proof that like realtor, something that's like, well, what's new in the area, what's like kind of living there, and pretty share worthy too.
Yeah. I always tell people, a lot of agents, they want to grow their followers, right? But you look at their profile and you see a market update graphic, a just sold graphic, a photo of them on vacation, just a bunch of random, or like a tip that's like why you should stage your home. Like nobody cares about staging their house. Nobody is like in the process of selling their house right now. And it's going to be like, nice, thank you for that. But what people want to see when they go on your profile, when these are people who live in your area or who want to move to your area, they want to see what's going on this weekend, what new restaurants are opening, like, ooh, what's that coffee shop? I want to check it out. So creating your feed to just be like super bingeable by people in your area or people who are interested in your area. So a lot of times like the best inspiration that agents can look to is like those local accounts, like even like in very touristy areas, like Visit Charleston, things like that. The type of content that they're posting is pretty much what an agent should be posting, but with a little bit more of their personal brand and listings as well.
Yeah. And you can look at kind of the numbers around it where there might be 1 to 1.5 million locally in Tampa, in the greater Tampa area. But if only like 7% or 11% of people are moving every single year, like they don't really care about real estate.
Yeah, nobody wants to see like talk about like what is escrow or like real estate vocab. It's like nobody's on it. Like you have to remember that you're competing with like viral golden retriever videos and like beautiful homes, things like that. Like just scroll through. If you're looking for content that's going to do really well on Instagram, you can see exactly what's performing well on Instagram by going to your explore page or just scrolling through Reels, and you'll see what the algorithm is pushing out. So whenever you come across a listing, you can kind of take notes, or if you're coming across local content, be like, okay, I should post more like this because it's obviously performing very well.
Nice. Yeah. And so when it comes to like the ideas like that, like for example, on YouTube, the way is you just subscribe to a lot of different channels that you can get sources of ideas to. You create like mini playlists of like here's good ideas, here's good like thumbnails, good titles. You just scroll, save. Like, what have you learned in teaching like your team to come up with good ideas?
So a lot of times we'll look at the insights of our members' content, and like, it sounds kind of creepy, but we'll go through like we follow a lot of our members, obviously. Nice. We'll go through anytime we see a member's post, we save it to a saved folder. And even if it performed well, if it didn't perform well, and we can track what's performing well for them and do more of the content that is. So like, for example, a type of content that was performing really well for members recently was like local itineraries. So like, and even like neighborhood guides or breakdowns, like different kind of like we noticed that carousel posts that were like breaking down something specific. So like this one was like neighborhoods broken down by vibe. That was performing well for multiple different members. We're like, let's do that again, but for something else. And then we see what's not performing well, and we're like, okay, I see why that didn't perform well. Like you can kind of figure it out at that point. And so doing more of what works well and less of what's not working well. And we also, all of the content pretty much that we give our members, we include a call to action at the end that's like comment guide below for my relocation guide, or comment summer below for my summer guide to St. Pete. So we can see if people are commenting the keywords on their captions too. So we can say, okay, they're generating leads from that one. And then also like asking them like, hey, what like we'll post in the Facebook group and be like, what's working for you guys right now? And then that can help us to create more content. But also getting inspiration from, like I said, those local pages. We also have a trending reels section of our website where every week we add in things that are trending. Either like agents, we ask them if we can, like if we see a post that did really well for an agent, we ask them if we can put it in the membership and like feature them. And then the agents can get inspiration from that. And that kind of helps to guide our strategy as well, because we're like, okay, this is performing well. We can put that into their content strategy. And just like what's trending in general, you know, all the fun Instagram trends.
Yeah, that's it. I want to get into like the comment part in a second, but like it's interesting because if you have 5,000 members, let's say like 3,000 of them are posting the content. There's probably more, but like even just that, like there's so much data there. So was it just natural that you're like, oh, we should start tracking their content? And then, because I'm sure you're not the one saving it too. It's like you had to build kind of like the support to track that too.
I'm saving them. we all have a login to our, like everyone on our creative team, which is like 3 of us, have a login to our to the Copying Contracts Instagram, and we each, it's like a collaborative folder. So on our individual Instagram profiles, we can all save them too. But yeah, if I'm just scrolling, it's like, I don't even think about it. I'm like, yep, that's ours. Like save. So it kind of like comes naturally now. But yeah.
It's funny because I do that like every week on YouTube too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, looking at like the comments, I'm guessing you teach them how to use like ManyChat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they can start adding a little sales around, not just putting out content, but also like, okay, let's start some conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have, we give them a landing page template. And nice. A template for different guides. So we have like relocation guide, seasonal local guides, buyer guides, seller guides. We have a ton of guides, like even new construction or things for people with a little more niche of like an ideal client. But we give them the guides to customize in Canva. So like a relocation guide, for example, like breaks down the neighborhoods, the schools, things to do in the area, everything someone would need to know about relocating. They put it in a landing page, and we give them the template for that. And then when their audience fills in their email or name that they want the landing page or they want the guide, they set it up so that it'll automatically send them an email, and then they collect their email. And then we have email templates like email newsletters and things like that they can follow up with people and stay top of mind. So yeah, that's one of the ways that they can start to move people off of just being an Instagram follower into like their database.
Have you found like one of them does better, like new construction, relocation?
Yeah. What performs best? I've actually asked this a lot of times to them, like which one's performing best, guys? But the local seasonal guides and the relocation guides have been the #1 performers. Another like great lead generator, like I mentioned earlier, is listing features. That's also what worked for me when I was an agent. I would just religiously go preview listings and put them on my story or put them in my feed and put a little information and say, let me know if you want more information. Or I would post on my stories and do a poll that make it really easy. Like they don't even have to type anything. I just said, want more information on this listing? And then yes, or not this one, whatever. And that's how I got a lot of leads from Instagram. So that's another one that works really well, is featuring a listing like on a reel and then saying comment info below and I'll send you the details. I've seen people get like thousands of leads from that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, have you had any like crazy success stories around people who've like really built their Instagram?
Yeah, there's a ton. We've had members who sold like 20 million from Instagram over the years, and just turned their Instagram into like a lead, like their main lead source. One of my favorite stories is this girl who, she started her Instagram and it was just listing feature reels pretty much, like just over and over again. And I thought that was so smart because if you think about it, when someone goes on her profile and sees that she's just consistently posting listings in your area and you're like, oh, I'll follow for that. Like, it's just like kind of the same. It's like the YouTube channel. Like you're subscribing for more of that content. And she was like, she was like, I have thousands of messages. Like I can't keep up with all of them. And of course, some of them are like, you know, not going to be like,
window shoppers.
Yeah. But a lot of them are, you know. Oh, I thought that was mine.
No, it was mine. So, yeah, a lot of like window shoppers, but it's cool. You've been able to track like thousands of leads, over 20 million in business from it. So,
yeah.
I want to get into a little bit of like the business, because I feel like that's kind of an underrated thing that you had to learn, and now you're starting to like really grow that. But when it comes to like, how do you stay, because marketing is, we talked about this earlier, it's like always changing. Like, how do you deal with that constant change? Like, because if you didn't innovate with your business, it could have probably dropped anytime in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I feel like recently I've struggled a little bit with our Instagram. I think it gets to a point where like you've been posting for 5 years and kind of saying similar things over and over again. So it can get a little bit, you can get a little bit burnt out from it. I think what's worked for me is that I truly enjoy it very much. Like I really enjoy creating content. And I think a lot of times, like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then it's not going to just be sustainable. So for example, like my YouTube channel is crickets because I don't enjoy creating long form video content. I'd like to get like the systems in place where I can, but when it comes to Instagram, I'm posting a lot more frequently because it comes really naturally to me and I truly love it. But I create the type of content that I also enjoy to like make. So some people may enjoy creating videos better. Some people may enjoy creating carousel posts better. I like creating carousel posts. I like creating like presentations for my trainings. That's like one of my favorite things to create. Just like breaking down information visually for people. So I feel like that has worked for me. I feel like with Instagram changing so much, like, and leaning more towards, reels perform a lot better than carousel posts a lot of the time, just because video is like more engaging. So I've definitely had to like shift our strategy as well to be more videos, which definitely took some time, but I feel like you just have to kind of figure out a way that works for you. Like what works for me really well is doing like B-roll videos because I find it really like easy to like throw together. What is a little bit harder is like just talking straight to the camera is a little bit more difficult for me. But if I can screen record me showing them how I'm doing something and then have like a voiceover of it, that is what works for me. But I think it comes from 5 years of trial and error. You know, a lot of people like try it for a week and they're like, this is taking too much of my time. But, you know, I definitely have put a lot of time into it, but I do believe that Instagram and social media is like just one of the best things to pour your time into for so many reasons. One, because it like lives forever. It is something that like, if you go door knocking, you're going to reach, how fast can you door knock? Like 50 people in an hour is probably really fast. I think I hit like 5 houses when I went. But you're going to hit like 50 people if you post something on Instagram. You can reach thousands of people for months and years to come. So there's just so many different reasons. So I think it's a good use of your time for sure.
And are you still like managing your entire content, or have you gotten a little leverage on there, or?
Yeah, I'm still doing all of our content. I would like to get help, but I do think like I would like to get help with just like some of the smaller things. I have a lot of times agents will say like, oh, I can't do this. I'm too busy. I need to just like completely outsource this and just set it and forget it. And I feel like that just never really works well. It's very difficult to do that because Instagram is just very personal. And as agents, everyone has like your personal brand is your business. They need to trust you. They need to know you, like you. And for me with Coffee and Contracts, I think there is an element to that as well, that I'm leading their strategy. They're trusting me to give them content that is going to work for them and that's worth their money and their time. So I feel like I do also have to build trust, and it's hard to do that when someone else is managing your social media. And that's another thing, is that there's a ton of different aspects of being a business owner, and one of them is marketing, and that's like the one thing that I like the most. So I'm like, I don't want to give that one up,
So when like a big team leader or like a broker comes to you and they're like, I have 10, 15, 30, 50, 100 agents, like I can't be the one necessarily editing, writing the caption, posting, like how do you kind of think through that?
Yeah. I think a lot of times for brokerages and teams, it's about educating their agents on how to market themselves individually. A lot of times brokerages, they'll give them, like a marketing center with branded new listing graphics and things like that. But a big piece that's missing is the strategy of building your personal brand with things that you can't put in a template, or that can't be like canned or easy to post, which a lot of times is disappointing for people because they're like, I really wanted to like outsource this completely. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do it. But if you truly want to build a strong personal brand and trust on Instagram, you have to put yourself into it a little bit. But there's so many different ways to go about it. It's not like you have to do talking to the camera. You don't have to dance in a TikTok video. Everyone does it in a different way. It's just about doing it in your way, but it just takes time to figure out like what that looks like for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think of like a team or a brokerage, for them to have the ability to give like agents like, here's kind of like a social media playbook, that is kind of a mix of a recruiting tool in a way.
Yeah, so like what we do in Coffee and Contracts is we give them the templates, but we show them how to customize it to them to get the best results. And that can be challenging sometimes, like I've mentioned, that people are like, well, I was paying you to do this, like I don't want to customize it. But like we're like, we want you to get good results, so you have to customize it. You can't just slap a stock video on there and like have a generic, graphic, whatever. So it's making it as simple as possible for them. So showing them how to record the videos or how to take the photos, and like best practices for when to do it. Like just mix it into your daily life. Like when you're out of listing, grab some videos. When you're grabbing coffee, grab some videos, save them to an album. And then here is the real framework, which a lot of times, like it is something like a hook that can just be easily customized for any agent anywhere. I'll try to think of an example. Like there was one recently, it was one of the trending reels that we gave the members that it performed so well for everyone. And it was just, the concept was, it was like, what was it? It's something like one of those relatable reels that's like, sorry.
You're good.
We can cut the thinking time out. It was something like, don't run from your problems, move to a house in Florida and float in the pool or something. It was something like that. And everyone tweaked it for their different areas. So they're like, if they were in California, they're like, don't run from your problems, move to California and go to the beach. if you live in a rural area, don't run from your problems, move to Texas and sit on the porch with your coffee. Like whatever it was performing really well for everyone. But that's what it's about, is like showing them how to do it for themselves.
Nice. And if a team leader or broker is like, I want to kind of grow the team brand, like, do they think through the lens of like, I should go after the consumer, go after agents? Like, how do you talk to them about that?
Yeah, it's always interesting because they want to, when it's a brokerage, they want to attract consumers and agents. And it's hard to do both, but I think the key is to focus on attracting consumers and collabing with the agents in your brokerage. There's a brokerage page that I came across recently. It's called Discover Arlington, and I feel like they are a great example of what's working for teams. They consistently collaborate with agents on their team, and so their feed is like a bunch of posts that is of their team members and their content. And I'm sure they do a lot of education around how to create content, because the content is very good. And then also just like consistently local content. I think that's kind of the key, is like the local and listing content, because it's relevant to everyone. It's relevant to agents. It's relevant to consumers, like local people in your area. And I think that if you're a team or brokerage, focusing on attracting consumers is going to just naturally attract agents, because they're going to see what you're doing. And if you're doing it well, they're going to be like, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's more of like the attract, don't chase.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about like Coffee and Contracts, the business, because there's a lot of interesting things that you've kind of built and learned through that. So when you look at the team, it's like 10-ish contractors. It's not just like one person who's coming up with all the like designs, the copy, etc. What does the team look like today? A little bit.
So we have about like 5 or 6 people that work day to day. We have a head of growth who is helping with like team and brokerage sales, which we're just starting. We have a head of partnerships who is helping with like our partnerships and like our affiliate program and things like that. We have our head of content, Claudia. She's been with me since the very beginning. And so she is like overseeing the full content creation, and she pretty much like, that's like her entire job. So she oversees that, and the designers and copywriters. And then we have our member success manager, and she is the one that is managing the support inbox in the Facebook group. She does like community initiatives. Like she just did this like fun summer bingo challenge where she put together a bingo card. But yeah, it's been awesome, starting from just myself and then me and Claudia, and then slowly growing. And it's been so fun to work with like-minded people that have the same goals. Like anytime we have a member that shares like a win in the Facebook group, we have a Slack channel and we'll post it in like the member wins. Nice. And we're like, no, it's like we're all getting like hyped about it. So it's been really fun to grow the team.
How do you think through like head of growth, head of partnerships, like head of content, like the right hires in the business versus just building the organization like haphazardly? Yeah.
So I think, like I mentioned earlier, you said like, what is it that like might have caused Coffee and Contracts to happen? Like, and I said like, I don't know if it was a good answer, but I was like, I don't think. I was like, sometimes I act fast. And sometimes that can like not be good. Sometimes I act a little too fast. But it works. It has worked well in some ways. And one of that, I don't know if it's worked. I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing yet, but my gut reaction was that I hire people like one of the people that I've hired, Cindy. She is she's our head of partnerships. And when I hired her, she was a Coffee and Contracts member and a real estate agent. And then she reached out about a job, and I hired her. And I just hired her like for like random stuff. Like there wasn't, I was like, you are this. And then like she helped with a lot of stuff, but then it started to form into like a legitimate position. I think that worked for me in the first few years. I think there was sometimes that did not work well. But that is just the truth of like how it happened is like even with Claudia, the head of content, when I hired her, she was just a creative assistant, but she was doing so much. Like she had her hands in like everything. And now she has like a more formalized role. So I think if you're at the beginning stages, like sometimes you just need help. And if you're like a startup, then sometimes that person just is going to have to be doing a lot of stuff. And then it kind of, you see their skills and then they become into a more formalized role. Now we're at the point where my most recent hire was our head of growth, and she has a background in managing teams, and she's like, whoa. So now we're at the point where I feel like we can have a little bit more, like things are starting to clearly have departments where before it was like, I don't know, it was everything. And now it's like there's more, like we're more departmentalized. So now we can start to see like, okay, there's a role like opening up here that we need to hire for. But in the beginning it was very messy, but I think the messy action is that's what worked for me. If I didn't take action, then I would probably have burnt out and just fizzled away.
Yeah. And that's where it's like having other things like outside, like wellness space, it's good to have, but
yeah.
So now you're kind of thinking it like more of a organization, departments, like, are you kind of modeling other businesses in that aspect? Or are you kind of looking at like, okay, this is where like we're going to need a head of community to manage a community because that's a big aspect of the business. Like,
yeah.
How are you kind of thinking through that?
Yeah, I think they kind of come up naturally. So like we have our member success manager, but she's overseeing a lot of things. Like she's overseeing retention, she's overseeing the Facebook group, she's overseeing initiatives like that, getting people to log in more. Like she's overseeing a ton of stuff. So I think like naturally you'll just kind of see someone's plate get more full.
Yeah.
And then that's when you're like, okay, we need to bring someone on to help with this.
Hiring for need versus like want.
So like we have someone who helps with managing, like she helps the member success manager with the emails as well. So like just different, things to take off her plate so she can focus more on like retention or the community engagement and things like that. So yeah, I think they kind of just like, you kind of start to see them open up naturally. But in the beginning, I think like I remember in the first couple of years, I would scour the internet for like podcasts and information. I'm like, how do I do this? Like, how do I structure a team? Like, what does that even look like? But I feel like what worked for me was like letting it naturally kind of grow and see where things needed to fill in. And I got really lucky with the people that I hired because they were so flexible, and they were just, they were just happy to help with what needed to be worked on at the time. And they were so talented in multiple different areas. So I feel like that worked really well for me. It's just like the right people and then figuring out which position fits them really well.
Yeah. I think sometimes early on having that person who can flex a little bit.
Yeah. I got really lucky.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot about like retention too. And retention is like a big thing for a membership business. But really, I feel like any business, there's things that kind of you're forced to learn earlier just because of the nature of the business. And I think as a membership, like most businesses don't always have to think about like retention.
Yeah.
But you've had to. So like when you look at that, I'm sure there were things you put in place, cadence, rhythm, the community. Like what were some things that you learned to like increase the retention and to really build like a good community?
Yeah. I think with retention, it's a matter of like, we put some things in place. Like, for example, if someone goes to cancel, they select a reason for why they canceled. That is reasons like it's a money thing, or the content is taking you longer than I expected, or like I'm not using it enough, or I'm leaving the real estate industry, or other, etc. So gathering that information of why people are canceling is like the first step. It's so important to know why. And then looking at those reasons and saying like, how can we improve that? So, there's some things you can't change. Like if someone's leaving the real estate industry, then you can't do anything about that. But If it's something like I didn't have enough time to use the content, or like I wasn't logging in enough, then we know that we need to get people to log in more, and we need to show them how to use this. We need to simplify our onboarding. We need to reach out personally to people. And you can also, like, once you start tracking things, you can start to see patterns too. Like our cancellations, the most cancellations happen within like the first couple of weeks. So someone signs up and then they like immediately cancel, usually because they're overwhelmed, or they're like, okay, I saw it, but I'm going to cancel so I don't get rebuild again. I don't know if I'm going to use this. So it's a matter of like those that first week and like those first few weeks being really strong, and you keeping them on track. You want them to take action right away and to see results right away. So making it as simple as possible and saying like, here, post this, give it a try. And just getting them like invested right away.
Yeah. Really quickly, before we get back into the episode, do you want to grow a hyper-local media company like Kyle Talbot? He added 20 million in sales to his real estate business using Instagram and YouTube. And I created a completely free playbook in the description below. It goes over all of his templates, everything that he used to grow over 70,000 followers on Instagram, 10,000 on YouTube. So if you want to download it and implement it in your business today, click the link below and download it. It's completely free. Let's get back to the episode.
Like a big thing, one is kind of like getting feedback so you know what's going wrong, and then going in and fixing it. And the onboarding is like a huge piece, making sure they see success. But then the retention as well with like the management side. You have that one in the external business of the community, and then also the inside, you have like Slack, the community wins. Like, what have you found? Like, have you kind of thought through like, oh, we need to build like a digital first culture? Because I think that is like a skill that not as many businesses have, is like remote first, digital first culture.
Yeah.
And that's something that you learn a lot in the community too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're definitely very much digital first. We use Slack for our team management. We use Notion for our like SOPs. That's been huge. I think, and then we have just a ton of tools for tracking, which like whenever I created Coffee and Contracts, I created it on a WordPress website, and tracking was awful. I had like no insights into anything. And then we finally switched about a year ago to a custom platform where now I'm able to use a lot of tools that plug into our platform really easily. And I'm able to like see beautiful dashboards of our tracking, which is such a game changer. And I remember in the beginning, like I would talk to mentors and stuff, and I'd be like, they ask me questions like, what's your churn? And I'd be like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? So now I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know. So that definitely changes things once you have those systems in place, like those nice dashboards and things like that make it easier to track. I think that's huge. But yeah, we're all remote, and then obviously our website and community is remote as well. So I spend a lot of time at the computer, that's for sure.
So if someone wanted to build like dashboards like that for their business, like I know we talked about earlier, you didn't really build it, but like what are maybe the tools or the platform? Like how could someone maybe think through that?
We use a tool called Baremetrics for our revenue reporting, and it is amazing. We use Stripe for like our payment processing and like subscriptions and stuff like that. And it plugs, and Stripe is the best because it integrates with everything so seamlessly. And you just plug it into Baremetrics, and it's like all the reporting that you need. And then we use a tool called June for our tracking of like what people are doing on the website. So like how many logins are we getting? Which templates are the most liked and clicked on?
Interesting.
What are people searching for? Like in our search bar, things like that. So like if we release a new feature, how many people adopted the new feature and how many people didn't? So then we can see like we'll remove features that are not getting a lot of use, and then we'll like continue to try to create features that people enjoy. But those are our top tools for tracking.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's really fun to like once you like I feel like, you know, I'm learning a lot as I go, obviously, and that's one of the newest lessons that I'm like, I can't believe you can't. What is the saying? Like you can't what you can't measure, you can't control.
Yeah, it's like
something like that.
Yeah, it's like what you measure, you can control. Type thing.
Yeah, and that is actually so true.
Do you track anything inside of like because it's a Facebook community, like Facebook community or Slack? Because like a lot of stuff that we do is in Slack, and I was like, I wish there's probably a way, but
yeah, not so much Slack. I mean, the Facebook group, the Slack is just for our
internal team.
Yeah. One thing, like one way that we utilize Slack is like automation. So like if we have a weekly stand-up, we can set up an automation that just prompts everyone to do their weekly stand-up. So things like that, or like if there's like monthly reporting, like it's time to do your monthly reports. We also use Asana for project management and tasks and things like that, which is amazing. But there's so many automations you can set up in Slack, which are great. And then Facebook, I would say like the best thing about the Facebook group is being able to keep like less quantitative information, more qualitative. Like what are people talking about? What are they struggling with? Like we get people asking questions in there all the time, sharing ideas or what's working for them. So a lot of it is like what we're hearing in the conversations that are happening. And then just the ability to post at any time and post a poll and be like, hey, what do you guys want to see? What new features do you want to see on the website? I'm very open about like what I'm thinking about doing, and I'll just like share. Like I just posted the other day, like what new features would you want to see? And it was like every like idea that I brainstormed recently for new features. So I was like, I don't care. But yeah, it helps to just learn what they want to see more of and what's working for them.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's kind of like internally what people should do. Externally, it's like trainings you do with people. And you're like, let me kind of keep growing the members, like and training them. But then also polls would be like, okay, where should we kind of move with the business?
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Because you have 5,000 members, so it's like, how do you get that data from all that?
It is hard. It's hard to get everyone to vote. Usually it's only like in the polls, we get a lot of answers because it's very easy to click a button. If we're asking them to respond, we're probably only going to get like 30 to 50 comments. But if we're asking people to click a button in a poll, we'll get like, you know, a couple hundred or so, but you're still not tapping into even 50% of the community because there's a lot of, you know, people that the way that I use most platforms like Canva or Notion or whatever is I log in and I use it and it's great and I have a great time and then I log out, but I never like send my feedback to them or,
I never,
you know, so
I use
like,
Notion all the time, never send feedback.
I know. No, it's hard. And I see like, and I'll get emails from services and they're like, can we get your feedback? And I'm like, no, maybe I should give back.
It's probably because the Facebook community, you went where most agents are on Facebook. You didn't try to build it off of somewhere else. And then also doing those trainings for them, it's probably a good place to have that conversation with people too. Yeah,
the trainings are great because we can chat and have those like live conversations and get live feedback. But yeah, I think we kind of had the thought of moving the community into the website. But the problem with that is that people are already on Facebook, you know, to get them to log into another platform for just like something that you can easily do on Facebook is kind of difficult to justify. So right now it's just the Facebook group.
Yeah, because Eric and I talked about BAM, school, and like kind of thinking through like where people might be able to build that community. And it's always this struggle of like adoption and use with everything. Yeah, I think that's why I favor Facebook. I've gone back and forth. I love Slack for communication, but a lot of agents aren't on Slack. Most people have a Facebook. It also, I think people are often on Instagram too. So, I mean, I use our Instagram a lot to chat with members and even though there's other people there, but still like using polls and getting feedback just from people in general is great. But yeah, I've done a couple of other projects, like
with other businesses where I've tried to build a community, and every time Facebook is what works.
Yeah. Interesting.
People are already there, and they're already used to using Facebook groups for so many other things, especially as agents. I remember when I was an agent, Facebook groups were kind of really big. I mean, I don't know if that was because it was 2019, but they're big for agents, like locally, to have like your local agent groups, and then like local like Facebook groups where people are just posting like in our area, hey, I'm looking for a real estate agent. Like, you don't want to miss out on stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense. So, and talking about other businesses, you've kind of, I'm going to hopefully say the horizontal verticalize, probably, where it's like you've gone into like medical aesthetics. Talk about like the building of that and like what it's like, because it's kind of a separate business too.
Yeah.
In a way to manage.
Yeah. So yeah, I partnered with a friend who she was very similar to me. She is very similar to me. She did social media management for med spa, or aesthetic industry businesses, and she also worked in that industry. And then she moved from working in the industry to being a social media manager and building a page where she was teaching them how to market. So like it was exactly my same, the steps that I went through of, I was a real estate agent, and then I did social media management, and then the next step was the membership. And we had talked about her doing a membership, so I helped her to build something similar to Coffee and Contracts in that industry. And it's been great, and it's been fun to see what it's like in another industry, because there is a lot of things that are different, and there's a lot of like parallels too. Like our struggle is like teaching people how to market themselves and customize the templates for different areas. Hers is more like how to customize it based on like what products they have at their specific practice.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's kind of interesting to see how those things parallel, and just the different types of content that works for those businesses, which is a little more like templated, like carousel posts or like informational stuff, because most of the time when someone is searching for someone in like a aesthetics person, they have a lot of questions. It actually is very interesting. Like, people find their page and they want to be like, okay, this person is very knowledgeable, because they're going to be injecting their face and stuff. So it's interesting to see like how the two are similar and different in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's kind of like looking at the patterns and then just removing the one variable, the puzzle piece of like local versus product based.
Yeah.
And then trying to like see how to mix and match it in a way.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And the industries are just so different. Real estate is a really fun and different industry, where I remember when I was getting my real estate license, the teacher said, something that's so crazy about real estate agents is that they help each other way too much, in my opinion. He's like, you guys are like, you help each other grow. And that's so true. Like, I feel like sometimes agents are like, I don't want to tell anyone about Coffee and Contracts, or that I use you guys, because I don't want any other agent to find out. And other agents are like posting us on their story and like tagging us in their posts, and are like, you guys got to check out Coffee and Contracts. And I've noticed like in other industries, they are less willing to like share their tools with other competitors, especially when it's so like local and very competitive. So yeah, that's another interesting part.
Was it hard to build kind of split businesses, like were at two times, like it would kind of split your focus, or like you'd want to make sure like the original like golden goose didn't drop, but then it's like you have a friend and you're like, you don't want to see them like fail as well.
Yeah, I think they were so like different in a lot of ways, where she like, so basically I'm very like fractional, and I pretty much like, she is the brand and everything, like she does it all, and then I'm more of like
behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm more of like a like website tech side, and like systems and business, like of like just how to set up your like everything that I did, and just kind of like the initial stages, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so since it's like her face and her like brand, it is very different. But yeah, and then I just like the back end system, I feel like it is different too, because like the content is so different. So like the filters and the topics and stuff are all different, and the imagery and stuff like that.
Yeah, more like a tech systems partner.
Yeah,
and then
I'm more in the behind
business
the
coach.
scenes. Yeah, I've always liked I really liked sitting down and like building something like a website. Like back in the day, this was I like MySpace profiles. I feel like that's how I don't know. I love like building like just like a little, platform or website. So I love like playing with like our Notion guidelines and stuff like that. So that kind of lucky that I like that, 'cause I think a lot of people don't enjoy that part.
Yeah.
Really quickly, before we continue this episode, are you looking to grow your YouTube channel this year? We help top agents and team leaders build and grow their YouTube channels and generate an average 300K in GCI. We've helped channels like Brett Davis in Northern California close 2 deals in the first 3 months. We've helped other people like Austin Clark generate over 15 million in business his first year on YouTube. Kyle Talbot in Kansas City double his YouTube channel in only 2 months. And then we've helped bigger channels like Chris Colgan generate 30 to 60 leads a month the first 2 months we worked with him. So if you want our help to do all of your YouTube for you, click the link below and schedule a strategy call, and we could talk about how we can help you grow your YouTube channel. Now let's get back to the episode.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like entrepreneurship, there's a lot of like highs, lows. Were there any points that you could talk about, like where you're just like, you felt maybe burnt out and you wanted to quit?
I feel like I go through stages of burnout and like extreme, I don't know how to explain it, extreme passion or like just, I go like, and my family and friends see it too. They're like, you've been in one of those phases for a while where you're just like going nonstop, where I would like wake up, make coffee, like sit at my desk, and I'd like forget to brush my teeth in the morning because I was just like in the computer,
in the
like
mode,
in the
yeah.
zone, which would then lead to like a burnout stage where I'm just like, I can't even look at my phone for a week, which I recently was in a burnout phase. And I think a burnout comes from, one, not prioritizing myself. So getting into those phases where I'm so like pumped to work that I like don't even take a break. And I'm at a point, I think when you're working for like 10 hours a day, like what are you, like at a point you're not even accomplishing anything. Like your systems are clearly not set up right. So there's a little bit of that. I'm still learning a lot about like delegating things off my plate that I shouldn't be doing. And I think that kind of contributes to burnout, is those types of things. I'm trying to get better at prioritizing my time and like time blocking, like this is what I'm working on, and not getting distracted by working on an Instagram post for 5 hours, which has happened. And then, yeah, I think another like burnout kind of comes too from just social media in general. Like, and I think that happens to a lot of people. I think I've seen a lot of business owners post that are like heavy in social media, like I'm taking a break for a week and I'll be back. Like, I think that's really important to like step off of, go touch grass and get off of social media when you're working in social media so much. And I think it gets easy to compare yourself to every single thing that you see on Instagram. Like I'll see competitors or just other business owners, and they just seem like they have it all together. Obviously, like everyone says, social media is a highlight reel, even for businesses. Like they're posting their best stuff, they're posting their best testimonials. You're not seeing what they're struggling with. You're not seeing like any negative feedback that they're getting. So you just instantly compare yourself to them, and they're like, wow, I am going to fall apart and lose everything. So I think stepping back really helps. And that's kind of when you can start to get your best ideas too. When you put the phone down
and unplug for a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
There's other things that I kind of saw doing a little research where it's like you got into like some morning rituals or like some health stuff. I feel like a lot of times when we don't take care of ourselves, it's hard to kind of take care of the business.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that with like myself, when I care about my sleep, like what I eat, like actually working out.
Yeah.
Like what are some things that kind of helped you?
Yeah, I think my morning routine is very like very important to me. If I, like I said, and when I get in those phases where if I get on the computer in the morning, if I say like, well, let me just do one thing real quick on my computer, then I'm like sucked in.
Yeah.
That actually happened this morning.
I feel that.
Yeah. But my favorite like morning routine is just like going for a walk, getting outside. I really enjoy having my coffee with like some relaxing music and like journaling and reading and just doing something to like connect with myself first. I think I've also noticed a pattern of like if I'm journaling consistently in the morning, then I feel like my mental health is a lot better and I'm feeling a lot more balanced. And if I'm like neglecting the journal, I think that's when things start to go a little more towards burnout and like I'm like, I don't want to do it. So that and like working out is huge. I feel like I try to work out like pretty much every day, and if I miss it, like if I don't go in the morning, then you don't know where the day is going to take you, and then you might miss it, and then that can really start to add up. So those are huge, and I think just like taking care of what I put into my body too makes a big difference in how I feel. I think like reducing like alcohol and like junk food and like processed food
Sugar,
really helps me, and if I'm like eating bad or drinking and stuff, it can really impact like how I'm feeling, during the work week. So
yeah, I think that's probably like one of the most underrated things that I feel like is becoming more of a trend is like health, wellness. Like there's the whole no alcohol or like 0% alcohol is super popular.
Yeah.
And people are starting to like say, oh, we're going to look back at today and be like, sugar was kind of like the cocaine of like the 1920s to 40s or whatever that was.
Yeah, it's so true. And I've talked a lot about it with like friends of mine or like other business owners too about, I think like just like, on the weekends when you have some drinks with friends and things like that, and it's like Monday, you're like, you don't feel 100%. I feel like if I take the weekends to like just truly take care of myself and like put myself first and stay active and stay healthy, then I feel like I just approach my weeks just on such a better foot.
Way better. Monday starts all good.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. I get a little too like hyped up. I'm like, I really need to tone it down a little bit because I get really like get pumped.
Yeah. There's another thing you mentioned there that we kind of talked about a little bit, like talking with other business owners, like Eric, your like other business communities. Like what have you, I found finding those communities of other people who are doing things at kind of like a higher level and trying to leverage that for like speed is really helpful.
Yeah, it helps so much. I have a few mentors that have helped me just to like, it's so important when you're trying to grow a business, but I never had like a real job. I had the doctor's office job, but I wouldn't really consider that real.
Same.
Okay, like yeah, like I never had like corporate experience or like I was able to see like what leadership looked like and like team structures and like how people work on a day-to-day basis. So trying to like navigate managing a team and not really knowing, like having an example to look after, it's been so helpful to have people who've been in your shoes to ask all of the questions to. I feel like the biggest thing I've learned is just to ask, like, don't just ask questions just to ask questions, but like really think about asking the right questions to get the best answer possible, especially when you're like talking to someone and you want to get the most use of their time. I'll take time before like an hour to like write out everything that I'm like brain dump, even like what I'm struggling with, and like figure out what do I really want to like get to the bottom of, like what am I actually trying to answer. A lot of times you can figure out the answer yourself for most of the stuff, and then you can just say like, okay, I actually just need like, I need to like a model of like, how are you doing this, or like how do you have this set up. I don't know if that makes sense, but like,
yeah, it makes sense.
Getting really specific in like what you're trying to get the answer for.
Yeah, because that's how I felt, where it's like you kind of go through the questions, you're like, well, I think I know the answer to it, so it's like, am I going to be stupid to like ask?
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful to like to get someone's feedback too. I think sometimes it's like validation, even like the answer and like when your thinking is right. That's been a big theme for me. And like, I think as a business owner, you start to grow so much personally too, because you're like, okay, I see like in myself, I'll see that I doubt myself and like my decisions, and I question if I'm making the right decision or if I'm crazy, like, and a lot of times like my gut is right and I am making the right decision, but I found that it's helpful to like have someone to bounce things off of to validate like, no, that is correct, you're doing the right thing. So that's been huge for me, but that has helped me like grow as well. I'm starting to trust more in my decisions and trust my gut and that kind of thing. So it's interesting the way that growing a business works.
Yeah.
My therapist often becomes my business coach, and like we bounce between like business coaching and therapy, but like it kind of works.
Talking about that, like there's an old stigma around therapy. Like, what are your thoughts around it all?
Oh, I love therapy. No, I've had a therapist for a while, and I've had the same therapist for years. I've been not going as much recently as I should be, but I've always found that you sometimes like you feel like you don't need to. I don't really have anything to talk about. And then those times when you go and you end up talking, you're like, oh, I guess I did have a lot. I had a lot to say. But yeah, I'm a big fan of therapy. I think it's good for anyone. I tell all my friends or anyone, probably too much. I feel like I've insulted people that like tell me a problem. I'm like, what if do you have a therapist? Because it's awesome. But it's nice to have. I even have found that just like having someone that you're paying to listen to you for an hour so you don't feel bad about just like pouring into them and talking, even if they're saying nothing back, it like helps so much just to get it out and put it into someone else's brain. That has helped me a lot.
I feel like that's kind of like the balance of like, if you look at therapists, business coaches, like just, or groups, there's a balance of sometimes just showing up and kind of talking through the questions versus like preparing a whole list of questions. So
yeah, that's very true. I think sometimes if it's more like emotional, then talking through it helps. And then if it's more like your brain is just like all over the place and you can't really like visualize something, or like you're confused, then like writing it out and researching. Honestly, ChatGPT. It helps a ton. I love the talking feature on ChatGPT. I don't know if you've used that.
I've used it a little bit.
Yeah, I've used it a little too much, but like you can go for a walk and just talk to it.
Are you like building out, like, I feel like that is a very interesting use case for like copying contracts, like kind of thinking of the future of like marketing, future of business. Like there's a few ways you can build like custom GPTs. And then for the business side, like we're trying to like systemize some of the like fulfillment through like AI agents. Like, are you guys thinking through it on either side of the business?
Yeah, through both sides, like through our product and copying contracts and through our like processes as a team. I feel like I have so much to learn about it, and I feel like it still is at the stages like right now.
So early.
Yeah, it feels like right now it's mostly like content and things like that, but I know that I've seen some things about like task automation and stuff, but my brain can't wrap around that yet. But we've definitely used like custom GPTs to help us. I've found that it just helps so much, like not even just like content creation, but helping with like your guidelines and SOPs and like that kind of stuff. That's helped a lot with the team stuff. And the website, we have AI generated captions. Like what we write the captions and then you can click a button and it'll customize it for you.
Nice.
Which it doesn't really like change it, like the context of it. It'll just like add in information about you. So it's not like it creates something crazy. Still like kind of stays in our tone and the style that we wanted. We've talked about doing like AI content generators, but I think that it's getting to the point where like everyone that tries like an AI content generator, like it's not going to work because everyone wants to use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You can't really compete against ChatGPT. And I feel like people are going to just get burnt out of even typing their questions. Like I think putting it into the back end in a way. So like one thing that we're going to do soon is right now everyone gets a calendar with like the same social media posts for every day of the month. And we're going to have a custom strategy. So you fill in information about yourself, like who your ideal client is, where do you live, and it'll fill in our content into the calendar for you based on you. So like they don't have to, type in a bunch of ChatGPT stuff. It'll like do it on the back end, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. That's cool. It's like, how do you leverage it?
Yeah. So. It's interesting. I see all the stuff like AI is going to take our jobs, but
no, it's just like people who don't use AI.
Yeah, people who are avoiding it. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you I'm guessing Asana, because now you're starting to think like there's so many things you could do with coffee and contracts. Like we could do like YouTube. We can go into different verticals. We can have AI for this, kind of AI for this. It's like keeping through like what is the actual project I should be working on for like the next 90 days.
Yeah, I use Asana religiously. I have my Asana task and tells me exactly what I'm going to do today and then exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow. And we use it like as a team to delegate things to each other. Even like if someone has a question for me, they'll create an Asana task, or like if they need feedback on something. So like everything I need is like in Asana. It's even got to the point where like you can have different projects in Asana. I have a personal project to remind me of like personal things like pay your mortgage, So that's been huge. And I think like even just like the ability to have recurring tasks to remind you of specific things, that's been really helpful. But yeah, whenever we have ideas, we use like an idea bank in Asana. So we created a project called the Idea Bank. And if anyone has an idea, we used to just Slack each other. And it was like the most overwhelming thing ever, because everyone would be like, whoa, what about this? What about this? What about this? And we're all like, oh my gosh, we have no like shortage of ideas. We need to like figure out how to implement this. So that was getting overwhelming. So we created this Asana project where when we have ideas, you can go in, add your idea, and then select like what is the impact that this is going to make? What is the effort that it's going to take? Is this urgent? So then we can kind of categorize and be like, all right, let's add this to our week so that we can work on it now. And then the rest of the ideas can stay in the bank until we have time to work on them. So that's kind of like with the website, kind of how we prioritize things too. So like we have a ton of ideas in our bank, but which ones are going to be the most impactful for the membership, and then putting those into our week. That's how we kind of keep things streamlined.
Nice. And I'm guessing you just on like a weekly or monthly meeting, you kind of just prioritize some of that stuff.
Yeah. Weekly, take a look at it. And most of the time there's a lot of projects that we're like, right now in this phase, we're like, they're all on the back burner. We're getting through some stuff and then we'll get there.
Nice. So if people want to keep up with you, where should they go?
Coffee Contracts on Instagram. That's pretty much where I hang out all the time. And coffeecontracts.com. We're not Coffee and Contracts because that was taken.
You're going to have to try to buy that domain.
Yeah, I asked. It was expensive.
Oh.
Yeah, they got me.
So if you're going to talk to like your younger self who is just trying to like get Coffee Contracts off the ground, or talk to yourself now who's like going through like the mud of business sometimes, and like you just kind of need to take a step back, take a trip, I know you have like a Sprinter van, like just take a little time away. Like,
yeah. What
would you say to that person that like wants to keep building, but it's like they're in that burnout?
I have like multiple different things that I always, when you're like in a phase of burnout and then you kind of come out of it and you're like, I wish I could just remember those things. Like, I wish I could remember this, Yeah. I feel like when I'm in a stage of burnout, what I wish I could tell the burnt out version of me is to like, if you just like stepped away from everything for a week, it's not going to like burn and crash. Like, you're not a surgeon. Like, everything's going to be fine. You can take a break, you can relax. And so I think that's the most important thing for me personally is like, just, I get a sense of urgency with everything and want to go fast, but sometimes just taking a break will actually help. And sometimes like you can come back and do things better than you were going to do them. And for the younger version of me, I would just say, keep going, doing what you're doing, but probably just give myself a little boost of confidence and say, things are going to work out, and keep going and just keep believing in yourself because it'll work out.
Yeah. I think for someone in her 20s to build a multi-7-figure business starting from $500 in debt, like there's a lot there. So
thank you. I appreciate
a lot of
it.
grace. So
Thank you.